National Association of Realtors just had a massive settlement. And today we're going to talk with Ms. Kinga about how does it affect a real estate agent, if that's you, or how does it affect a homeowner or a home buyer or an investor. This is going to be an epic conversation. Hey guys, welcome. We have Ms. Kinga Korpacz from Exit Realty Redefined. And this is going to be a fun discussion. It's all about the NAR settlement and how the real estate industry is changing. So Ms. Kinga, welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
Great. You know, I've heard a lot of your name thrown around because you guys do a lot of business. So finally, great to meet you. And let's kind of jump right into it, Ms. Kinga. So what is the state of real estate industry? What is this whole settlement, the NAR settlement that we keep hearing about?
So the sellers complained that they were overpaying for the agent. So as of August 17th, we agreed that seller pays for their own agent, and now the buyer must have their own agent.
Okay, so the seller has their own agent,
Correct.
which is kind of traditional so far, right? And the commissions have always been negotiable.
Yes,
right?
yes.
But yet,
Thank you for saying that.
No, I mean, I was a RE/MAX agent for 20, 25 years, so I understand the industry fairly well, right? The commissions have always been negotiable, but there was certain people took, I guess, certain things and said, well, it's not clear to the public, so on and so forth. I mean, it is what it is at this point, right?
Yes, you are correct.
So it's water under the bridge. But today, let's say I'm a real estate agent, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to show a property. I have a client, so I'm going to be the buyer's agent, right? So the big confusion today is, how do I get paid as a buyer's agent?
So now we have to negotiate a commission with the buyer. So we have to sit down, explain the agency, and then sign a disclosure with the buyer and agency disclosure with the buyer, so we can then go and show the property to the buyer.
Got it. And so I'm going to kind of play a little bit of a role where I don't understand the business, right? Mm-hmm. Because I haven't sold real estate since almost 2009, even though I had my license for a long time. I'm on the investor side of it, right? Mm-hmm. So let's just hypothetically say I'm the agent, right? The MLS commissions now, till the 17th in the Chicago MLS, they were disclosed, right? What the buyer's agent was going to get paid. Correct. Now it's not there. So step one, does the buyer's agent, at least in the Chicago market, pick up the phone, has to call the listing agent to figure out, hey, what would I get paid on a sale? Is the seller offering some sort of compensation? How does that work?
So we can definitely ask and call the listing agent and ask them if the seller is offering commission. However, if we have the buyer's agency, exclusive agency agreement, then we're going to get paid by the buyer. If the buyer asks us to ask the seller or for the commission, then we can definitely do that. And we can submit an offer with the request for the commission to be paid. However, that request, it comes from the buyer, not from us. So
Got it. Okay, so I'm glad we have you here, because that was something that, from my understanding, I did not know that. Mm-hmm. That the buyer, let's hypothetically say, I basically tell Mr. Buyer, I would like to get paid 2.5%. You can decide something else. Somebody else can decide something else, right? Because that was the big issue was, there's collusion in the market, right? So I want to be clear. So I negotiate that with my buyer, and the buyer says, well, I don't have the money to necessarily pay. Why don't you get that from the seller? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. So let's say we present a offer to the seller for $250,000, and at that time I have a buyer's agency agreement signed with the buyer, but according to the buyer's instruction, I'm going to ask for a commission to be paid by the seller. Is that my
That's
correct?
Exactly, yes.
That's exactly what it is.
Your understanding is
okay.
correct.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so that makes sense. And I mean, Kinga is not saying this. I'm saying this. I mean, I think the whole thing is crazy because the commissions have always been negotiable.
Yes.
They've always been negotiable. And I can understand how everybody, and guys, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, everybody's going to try to protect your own industry and money you make. If it's teachers, if it's plumbers, it's all the same, right? And so real estate agents are no different, right? Everybody's just trying to make a living for working. So How do you see that? I mean, obviously, someone like you have worked your butt off all these years and built a really good business for yourself. But there are millions and millions of people in real estate that have no clue what they're doing.
They're not. As a fact, I'm also a treasurer for Main Street Organization, so our staff gets a lot of calls, mad calls, from agents not knowing that this has changed, that we're just ignorant because this has been going on for over 3 years. We have heard, but everybody was ignorant. Now the changes has happened. Now everybody is panicking. So our office and myself, we are well prepared, so we are not afraid of it, and we're just meeting with the buyers and we're just explaining the disclosures or the agency agreement. So it's either exclusive, non-exclusive, or no agency. So it's just more clear now to the buyers. And again, if they, like you mentioned, if they don't have the money, we can definitely ask the seller to do that. We can offer with the list price, or we can offer a little bit more and ask the seller to pay us the commission.
Got it. And some of this is going to have to be, it's like with anything else, right? Really, you have a year or two to see where exactly it shakes out, right? Because it's going to also depend on, okay, what happens with, especially people that I truly feel that are going to get pinched a little bit on the buyer side are the first-time home buyers, right? Because that's where it's tough. People don't have a lot of down payments. They can barely manage 3.5% down payments. And now they're like, oh my God, I'm scared, right? Because with change, right, people are confused. Buying a home is a big thing, right? And it's going to be confusing, and I'm sure it'll create a lot of ruckus in the background. How do you think this will affect agents, new agents trying to get started?
So actually, brand new agents, I think they're going to start from the right way to do it because they
don't
didn't know any
better.
other way. So I don't think it's going to be hard for them. You are right about the buyers, especially FHA or VA buyers, because they scramble to get the down payment. Now they have to pay their agent to do it. So right now, because the changes just happened a couple weeks ago, so we're, I think, in the chaos mode. And then once it settles and everybody understands that this is what is happening, this is the new law, this is the settlement, then actually we'll settle down and everybody, will be able to move forward and will be able to understand how the agency works and, buy their home.
And I think what will end up happening is I doubt that in terms of practice that people will ever really understand agency, right? Because that's more of a little bit of a legal term, right? Yes. Are you a exclusive agent? Are you an agent only? Yeah, non-exclusive, yes. Meaning just that property, or do you have no agency? These are hard concepts for the public to understand, right? And I think what will happen is at some point there will be a way of doing business that'll come in place, which probably the general public will understand. Right. Unfortunately, that's just what it is, because the legalese of this, nobody's going to understand, because this is it's like kind of what happened in the Uber industry. Different industries have faced different things, and you have two choices as an agent. I think you can be that one person that's, oh, this is BS. Stick your head in the sand, or you're going to have to learn a new way of doing business. Would you agree with that?
100%. And yes, we are on the cast. However, when everything settles down, and we'll find out exactly how we're supposed to do it. And yes, it's a very legal way to do it. So I believe now the buyers should just interview the agent and make sure they have someone that is professional, knowledgeable, so they know exactly what they're doing and they're actually protecting the buyer.
Right. And it just, again, in every industry, I mean, from time to time, I've gotten mad at a bunch of agents because clearly and we all started somewhere. Right. Mm-hmm. At some point, Ms. Kinga was a brand new agent. At one point, I was and we all started any industry at zip zero. We don't know anything. We bumble our way. That's called life. Right. But a lot of times I think people don't understand how tough it is being a real estate agent, and anything goes wrong with the transaction. Guess who gets blamed for it?
We are the agents.
The real estate agent.
100%,
it could be. Yes. Your credit score is bad, you couldn't buy the house. Guess whose fault it is? It's the agent's fault, yes. Right? This is just the industry, and I think more than anything, agents are basically the best, firefighters, because they're fighting one fire after another, after another, after another. You go to the next transaction, it's the same thing again, right? So one side of it is the side of a regular homeowner, right? I think by the time a homeowner is buying their second, third house, they're generally better educated. They've done this before, so they're not as scared of the process, right? And that they may have a little bit more equity, they may have a little bit more money. They're a little bit later in life also, right? So I think they're going to have a little bit easier time adapting to this, right?
And understanding.
And
yes,
understanding the whole thing.
Yes.
And I think at some point, I know FHA or VA hasn't come out with a solution for this yet, but I think they will.
So they did allow already.
They did
allow the commission to be paid on the VA and FHA.
Oh, that's already in place.
Yes.
Okay, well, there you go.
A couple months ago, yes.
Okay, so now they will let you adjust that, and it's okay by FHA as well as VA.
That is correct.
Okay,
yes.
all right. So basically, on the lender side of it, already it's been affected. And what about on your conventional loans?
So the same thing. So correct. So on a conventional, any actually loan that you're taking, you need to prove your financials, right?
Okay,
So if
sure.
you have, so yes, so it's.
But can the seller can the buyer add that to the price of the house and finance that as a part of the transaction?
Yes, you can. Even if you're asking when you're submitting an offer, and if the seller says that they don't offer the commission, we can always ask for it, or we can up the price a little bit and then ask for the commission to be paid. Absolutely,
commission be paid back.
It can be financed like it was right now, because you're still the buyer paid, right? The commission and the purchase price. If the buyer didn't offer and didn't pay for the house, the seller would not have that money to pay for any of the commission. So it will be in the purchase price. Obviously, the property does have to appraise.
Has to appraise out, right? So really, what has changed, if you really think about it, is the disclosure of it.
Yes.
Right? The disclosure of it, that
more
hey,
clear.
exactly who is paying the commission, exactly how much is it. Now it's supposed to be more clear, if that makes any sense. Now, what would you suggest for investors?
So a lot of investors obviously know, just like yourself,
Sure.
you know what you're doing. You know the process. So if you want to see the property and you call the agents, and the agents always tell you, you have to sign an agreement in order for us to show it to you, I would suggest to offer no agency disclosure.
No agency.
So that means the investors are representing themselves. So in this way, the listing agent can show you the property without any further commitment from you. If you are interested, you can still submit an offer. You can ask the agent to provide you a contract. You can submit an offer if you know how to fill out the contract. You can ask attorney to fill out the contract, and you can negotiate perhaps the condition, to lower the price. So
to lower, okay, got it. Yeah, because a lot of times, in fact, before we got to talking here, we were talking about that, right? And I was like, we always try to suggest, and at times agents get mad at me, but it's our job to try to get the investors to understand, hey, at the end of the day, who controls the listing? The listing agent. This is just what it is, right? And if you're working, and this is in life, right? If somebody is good to you, they work their butt off to try to show you a product, whether it's a car, whether it's real estate, doesn't really matter. Somebody's working their butt off, showing you 10, 15, 20, 30 houses. If I was selling real estate, I would be pissed that you go around me and go buy the property from somebody else, because the only way I would get paid is the day you buy the house, right? Yes. And that's unfair for you. And I mean, shame on you if that's the type of human being you are. But if you're basically hunting a bunch of properties, either Redfin, Zillow, whatever the case may be, at that point, you identify a property. My point has always been that go call the listing agent, right? Talk to the listing agent directly, see if they will engage with you, and if they can show you the property, right? Sometimes, is that something that you think agents are going to get mad about?
No, but you know what? You have a good point. So when you do call a listing agent, a lot of agents don't want to do dual agency. However, we can represent the seller and represent you when you do sign the no agency disclosure. However, if you are experienced investor and you call the listing agent, say, look, I am an investor. I've bought a lot of properties. Would you be able to show me the property? I'll sign non-disclosure agreement. I'm a cash buyer, a quick buyer. So, let's make a deal and let's, have you show me the property. Obviously, I don't think any agent will decline.
You know what it is, Ms. Kinga. Whenever you clearly, obviously, have been not only in the business, you invest for yourself, you understand the business from the front and back of it. A lot of times, the traditional agents have been scared so much with this whole dual agency thing that a lot of times we call, right? That, oh, no, we don't do dual agency. I'm like, listen, you don't have to do dual agency. You can do a no agency. I'm not looking for commission. I don't even, in fact, have a license anymore. I'll sign. I'll put up $20,000 earnest money. non-refundable, no inspections after I look at the property once, boom, right? And a lot of times there's such a kind of reaction is, oh, no dual agency, right? I mean, they get so scared because they've been brainwashed so much that, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong. And generally with a lot of investors, especially with people who know what they're doing, right? All they want is they want to buy the property. If the property makes sense, they know the price, they know the inspection issues before they go in the property, right? Yes. And a lot of times, but you get this reaction, and it kind of is like, sometimes I'm like, what is wrong with you, right? But I think as this whole thing comes, because of this, in fact, commission change, I think more people, more agents will have to become more educated, because now there may not be a compensation for the buyer's agent that's being offered by the seller, maybe seller in some cases, right? And so now they'll be probably much more open to no agency.
Correct. So again, it's really, it is experience, yes, and it is the education. Again, my office doesn't do dual agency. However, we will absolutely do no agency.
No agency.
Disclosure, okay. And we're open to any investors that will call us and want to see the property. So once we have a seller's market, so right. Maybe a lot of sellers don't want to offer the commission, but when the market changes, believe me, every seller will be offering commission. So you can still work with an agent, and if you have a good agent, they'll be able to find you a lot of good deals, good properties as well.
And that's where a lot of times I think it's like, guys, anything else, right? There are great real estate agents that will bend over backwards, and they give up their time and they provide a superior service. Right? And that's what you have to really learn. And I think that's where the industry is going. If anything, agents that are good are going to do more business. I mean, that's just, I hate to say it, but that is just what's going to happen, is that agents who are good are going to become more profitable. I mean, that's just what's going to happen.
That's 100%. I've been in the business for 23 years, so I've been through the downs. And when the market turned down, I did a lot of short sales, and I had a lot of investors then. So it doesn't matter what changes. People will be buying, will be selling. There will be always investors. You're an investor. I am an investor. So we're always looking for good deals. And believe me, it's just the way you talk to the agent. Obviously, there's a lot of agents that have no idea what they're doing, or they're newer. But try to explain, to them who you are and what your goal, what your purpose, and see if they'll be able to work with you.
Right, and I think there's only two types of people, right? We have seen that with the market, that either you're going to grow and change with the market, or you're going to be out, right? You cannot afford to be a dinosaur in the market.
Oh gosh,
and I mean, that's just how the industry is, and it's not just real estate; it's in every industry today, right?
Yes.
And what you notice is, yes, there are times when industries go through changes. But when you look at the other side of it, people who did well, who provide a great service, they always end up on the top. That's just kind of how it is.
100%. You're not afraid to move forward with it. So even neither am I. So I don't care what kind of market it is. I will always be successful because I'm adapting with the market. I see the changes, and this is exactly for investors or anybody else. Right. And you're right about that.
No, and it's like, what choice do you have?
Right.
Right. In life, what choice do you have? Because you can complain, moan, and bitch about it. It doesn't matter, right? What party comes into office, doesn't matter what your political affiliation, what happens. Your life doesn't stop.
No.
Right? It is what it is. We may like it, we may not like it. And I think the quicker we adapt, right, the better off we are. And there are more opportunities today. There are more investors in the market today that can buy properties than there have ever been. Right.
And what a great way to get wealthy than investing in real estate. I
100%.
mean, most of the wealthiest people in the United States did it through real estate.
100%. So what do you think is the outlook, right, as you look at the market today? Obviously, you said depending, what part of the Chicagoland do you generally serve?
Northwest.
Northwest part of Chicagoland. Okay. So that market has been hotter than hot. Right?
Yes, we have to run to those properties. Right. Even still right now, with the first week, it actually slowed down a little bit because everybody was afraid what is happening. But it's still, we get multiple offers. We still have a lot of showings, and that more, serious buyers or investors are still out there.
Right. And I mean, it's interesting because interest rates have been ticking down lower again, right?
A little bit, yes.
A little bit. Mm-hmm. And the market in Chicago didn't slow down. Right, at least in all the A, B areas, hasn't slowed down. South suburbs, some of the south suburbs, the CC minus areas, it slowed down a little bit. because it's an affordability market, right?
Correct.
People are buying the payment, not the house in those markets. But that's just, it's economics, right, is all that is. So where do you think it goes? Because at least in a market like Chicago, you take Philly, Chicago, Cleveland, some of these markets that are older markets, right, compared to Florida. In Florida, you have a lot of sitting inventory because of new construction, right? A lot of new construction inventory. So the markets are diametrically opposite. But in a place like Chicago, I don't know how the market loosens up, because I don't see any new listings really coming up in huge volume. I don't see expires or cancels that much. So I don't know how the market turns into a buyer's market. You see that happening in the next year or so?
No, because we still have a shortage of homes. Yeah. So obviously it's demand. So we can you can always buy a home and refinance, sure. But a lot of sellers are not selling because they refinance their home. Right. And they have low interest rates, so it just makes no sense for them to sell and to buy. So I don't see that how the market could change, because again, we still have shortage of homes. So right. through whole United States, we have about 5 million of shortage of homes, and definitely a lack of new construction homes.
And I think also the other challenge is that if you go back to even 95 to 2000, 2005, 2006, like a lot of times people are like, well, what about the 2008 collapse? Guys, compared to the number of people investing in real estate today, right? 2005 and 6 did not have anywhere close to the number of people that are investing. And the difference between 2005 and 6, see if you feel a similar way, Ms. Kinga, which is that at that time, a lot of people, the get-rich-quick people, got in. Now the people that are buying properties, a lot of them have been holding on to them, and this is their second or third property, and then fourth property, and then fifth, and they don't sell because they're not desperate buyers. Would you agree with that?
Yes, 100%, yes.
Right? It's a lot of people which we like to call busy professionals. Like Ms. Kinga happens to be in the real estate industry, but she's a busy professional. Her job just happens to be real estate, right? But if she buys a property or two or three, guess what? It's going to be for long term. That you're not looking at, oh my God, next year it's worth 100,000 more, so I'm going to sell it. Is that kind of what you're seeing?
Yeah, so most of the properties that I do buy is for an investment. Actually, I can say at that age that I want to invest for my retirement.
Sure.
So that's why I'm holding on to it. However, I have one property that I just want to flip. I don't want it. So it really depends on the numbers. It depends on the area. Depends how much I'm going to buy the property for, if it's worth it for me to rent it or to flip it. But majority of my properties are rental properties, yes. And I'm holding them, yes.
And that's where we're like, a lot of times people hear this, right? We're turning into a renter nation. And percentage-wise, it's actually true because people have realized that when you hold properties for long periods of time and you're not a desperate buyer and or seller, over time, investing in real estate, you just can't beat it because not only do you get appreciation, not only do you get cash flow, you get depreciation, and over time, right, the properties are going to go up in value 10, 15, 20 years down the road. It becomes a phenomenal part of your retirement. And Americans as a whole did not realize that until, I'm going to say about 2014 and 15. But once people started holding on, I'm talking about the average public, the number of investors has gone up. It's gone through the roof, and it is not going down. It is not going to go down because a lot of people have equities, and they're locked into, on top of that, into loans that are 2.5%, 3%. I mean, if somebody has a great property in Schaumburg, and you have a 2.8% rate, you would be crazy if you don't have to sell the property.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
Rent it out. Your payment on the property is $1,400. You get $2,800 in rent, right?
Get the equity out of the property. Buy more properties.
Exactly.
Just use that money. Don't hold that money in your account. It just makes no sense.
Right.
Have your money and equity make more money.
Right. Absolutely. And I think a lot of everyday Americans have bought that idea today, and they've realized that, hey, if it's done correctly, and that's where there was a lot of, I keep hearing online, it's going to go down, it's going to go down. It's like, guys, listen, the numbers don't show it.
No.
The numbers do not show it. If you look at the market between 2001 to 2006, 7, 8, I remember 2005, 6, 7, 8, every day I used to call expireds and cancels, right? Every single day. Expireds, cancels, flips, and that's where all my business used to come from. Every day it was better because I'm like, oh my God, today there are 100. Next day there are 120, 30, 150. every day the amount of expireds was going up, right? And why were they not selling? Because they were priced too high,
Yes.
right? And so when the market turned in 2007 and 8, when I started investing, and people are like, it's the worst time. I'm like, no, actually, it's great because now I can get huge discounts, right?
That's when an investor should be buying
100%.
on a downturn, not at the upturn where everybody else is investing.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
And that's where now, if you look at the inventory of properties active versus pendings and solds, people only look at sold market. But if you want to realize whether the market is hot or not, look at the number of actives in a market and how many are pending. And a lot of properties, especially when we talk about west part of Chicago, western suburbs, northern suburbs, northwest suburbs, there is no inventory.
It's 1 month, 2 months. You rarely see 3 months of inventory. Yes.
And still, like, people are topping the market. If this year, right now in July, the number is 400, 410, by the time you put a flip on the market in February, if you've done things right, you can get away with 470. And it may be, oh my God, it's overpriced. But guess what? You'll get an offer at 460 in February, early February, right? Because people are sitting on the market in winter, and then suddenly they're like, oh my God, I gotta buy. And they're gonna force buy a property and overpay for the property, right?
Correct, but a lot of, investors, the numbers work, investors don't really overpay the property. Right. They know exactly what they're doing. Some of the buyers might overpay of the property
I'm talking
because
on
there's nothing there, and they have to pay something, and they have to bring money to the closing in order to live. It's still less expensive to buy than rent because the rentals. So for investors, it's awesome when we buy actually and put properties for rent because we can get a lot of money for those properties, have those tenants pay our mortgage and make us rich.
Got it. So what would you say to agents as we close this out, to people who are real estate agents that may say, oh my God, the industry is changing, I'm scared? Because that's a normal feeling, right? Yes. For anybody that we can't ignore that. What would you say to them?
Just go for it. I literally just do your math, do your homework, do the research, and just go for it. Buy your first property and see, get the feeling of it, see who you can manage, and then just go buy more. Okay.
And how about on this whole thing that we started the subject with commissions? Because that is a scary change in the real estate industry for a lot of agents. What are you telling your real estate agents in your office? Because I'm sure some of them are like, okay, no problem, I adapt. Other people are like, oh my God, I'm not sure, right?
So educate yourself, educate, and make sure you understand the forms that we need to sign, and you educate the buyer. There's no way you cannot be successful if you know what you're doing and the buyers trust you, because this is all it's about.
So guys, you heard it, right? It's about education. Number one, you have to understand what exactly are the rules, what is the right way of doing business, what are the disclosures that you need, and then understanding that your buyer understands it. At the end of the day, I think more than ever, you as a real estate agent have to be a problem solver, right? Your average buyer is not going to the listing agent, right? They're never going to go there because we do business with people who we like, who we trust, and they're putting an incredible amount of faith in you. And I think that's what you're kind of referring to, is that if you do that properly, 100%, the change in the market will be just a blip down the road. So.
And you don't want to be a salesperson. Yes, we are problem solvers. Buyers and investors have a goal, and we're there to help them reach that goal. So, yes.
Guys, having said that, thanks a bunch. This is Andrew Holmes with Ms. Kinga, and we were covering kind of the NAR settlement that just happened, big changes in the real estate industry. How does it affect a real estate agent, and then how does it affect us in terms of on the buyer side of it and or the investor side of it? Again, you're listening to Cashflow for Life. Thanks a bunch. Please like, subscribe, and please help us promote to your friends. Thanks a bunch. Have a good day.
Thank you.